There we go, Lee. Little clip to start the day. What have you got?
That was good. Oh, I'll tell you what I've got, Rob. I've just, because obviously I time everything really well. I always make sure I'm planned well in advance. So I've got my lunch.
Oh, super.
Nice,
So you're going to sit there eating while everyone watching?
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much just going to... Listen, I like to think this is a lunchtime live. So all the guys who are on live with us, get you, let us know, lads, what you're having. What you're having for lunch.
I'll tell you what I'm having. A nut bar.
Oh, my God.
I know. That's sad, isn't it?
It is. It's nearly as sad as my spicy bean burger that I'm having.
That is a bit sad. I think we're a bit dark.
No, you look fine. We can only see your face, which is pretty scary, to be fair.
It's pretty scary. So, folks, welcome back to the Monday weigh-in. We're going to be talking all things fishing. A couple of things that I want to touch on. One of the things is something that was a bit of a thing on Facebook last week. A bit of a thing. But I think it's been a bit of a thing for a month or so now. Because earlier over Christmas time, Angling Times, in their wisdom, decided to produce a list of top 50 influential anglers of 2023.
Right.
Lee, this isn't something that I would think of doing. Because
it seems like quite a strange thing to do, but okay, I like what they're doing there. So they're like, are they saying like current influential people
of 2023? They're saying the most influential people. Now, this isn't best anglers of 2023. This is, I think, because of social media, and I think influential. So I don't know how you take that term
across all disciplines.
Across all disciplines. So in the rawest form, influential. You're influencing people.
Nice.
So they did a list, top 50 influential people in fishing. Now, in that list, there was people like Martin Bowler, Mortimer and Whitehouse, because obviously they've done a lot of stuff on TV.
Yeah, they were obviously they were like, what? They must have been like 20th, 30th, I would have thought.
Yeah, but they're not as influential as some people.
That's what I would have thought, yeah.
There was number one, Danny Fairbrass, obviously a person that's done fantastic things in fishing.
Number two, it been me or you, number one.
Our great friend Matt Godfrey, obviously match angler,
very influential.
Then when you get into slightly lower down, but not in the rock bottom, there was people like Rob Wootton and Lee Kerry in the top 10.
No, there wasn't.
There was. And listen, Lee, I opened the page and I saw it and I thought, that is ridiculous. To think that we are that influential in fishing.
They must be members of the Edge. That's all I think.
Members of the Edge that have had a say on that. So that was a fantastic thing to do. So obviously, Angling Times, hats off to you. Thank you very much. That is brilliant. But it has caused a stir because people that maybe felt that they should have been higher, or their friends should have had a mention, have maybe kicked off a little bit and said, well, this isn't on because I don't know certain people on that list, and my friend's more famous than them, and all this sort of thing. Now, for me, I think it's a bit of fun. Ha ha ha! That's great. Nice to have a little mention. Thank you very much. But some people take it very serious, and some people get the knickers in a twist about it. So I'd love to know of 2023, because there's people on there that I don't particularly know because they're not necessarily match anglers, or I've not really been influenced, if that's the term.
Yeah, of course,
I'd love to know what you guys, who you feel is the most influential person in your fishing. So that might be your next door neighbour who's taking you fishing. It might be your dad who's taking you fishing. It might be the local top matchman who's taught you how to fish and took you under his wing and taught you fishing. It could be anybody. So I'd love to know the most influential person in your fishing, because it doesn't have to be some social media fishing superstar or television guy. It doesn't have to be that person. It could be just anyone at at any level. So I'd love to know that, guys. The next thing we've got to talk about, Lee, is the bomb video that we had a little clip of at the start.
Yeah, we sure have.
Winter at bomb fishing. Talking through it, because I was on the box.
Yeah. Listen, I think for you guys at home, if you go commercial fishing at any time of the year, bomb fishing, in my opinion, is like a. I don't think I would ever go on an open water, not a snake lake, an open water of any sort, even if you had only had up to like 20 meters without a bomb. And I don't mind sitting here and saying probably my weakest type of fishing personally. I always felt like bomb and whatever was a lot of luck involved. I felt like, I was almost chucking and chancing it. And I've obviously grown to understand it a little bit more. But we went down to Lindome because obviously bomb and pellet, bomb and corn, whatever you might think, for big carp is quite traditional. But for F1s, and these F1s are getting big, they are big in all lakes, really. Bomb and pellet can be devastating. Now, on the day we went, it was blowing a hurricane, weren't it, Rob? It was like, I mean, it was unfishable on a pole, wasn't it?
There's four people on the bank, 2 cameramen, 2 anglers.
Yeah.
3 hats blew off people's heads that day, didn't they?
Yeah, one stayed on. It must have been my hair. That's the problem, you see, guys. Obviously, some people don't have as much hair in our camera team and our filming
3
team.
people with the least hats, the least
hair
on their head.
Yeah, they lost it.
Holding their hat on.
Mine held solid. Didn't even look like moving, to be fair.
Had their hat blew off their head. It was that windy.
Yeah, that was what it was. But it was so windy. But we had a brilliant day, right? We would have caught £100 of F1s in match hours. That's how good it was in January. And it was all because of how we were managing the peg, feeding, the rig. Everything with bomb fishing has to be perfect. And you know how much I love doing this, how much I love bigging Rob up. But that check he's got on his wall behind him was 1 bomb fishing. So if you think about it, bomb and pellet has won one of the biggest prizes ever in match fishing. And it is probably won more money for more people than I could care to remember. So this video is brilliant. The detail is there. The, corn versus pellet versus whatever it might be, where to chuck, fish management. There's a fantastic drone footage of how to manage your peg. It's really, really good. So if you're into your commercial fishing in any way, shape, or form, or you want to try bomb and pellet, that is a must. That video, without a doubt.
It's like over an hour long, isn't it? But it's all broken down into
of
sections, so obviously it's a little bit easier to digest. Tell you what I find interesting with bomb fishing is a lot of people, because you're casting out and sort of you are setting a trap, you sit there pretty, once it's in, it's in. It's not like float fishing, but people see it as a bit of a chuck it and chance it sort of style of fishing. You've still got to feed just as you would if you were fishing a float, and you've still got to think about your swim. And especially at this time of year, you've got to think about where to start fishing and where you'll probably end up fishing later in the day. So you've got to treat it like you're float fishing at the end of the day. You've still got to you've got a bomb on the end of your rod, but you treat it like float fishing.
My biggest weakness with it, Rob, was knowing how often to feed. The default was just to sit there pinging bait at it. And that was where I went wrong massively in the past. And I've learned to manage that a lot better now. And obviously in the video, we break that down really, really nicely, So
that like as you say, Lee, that day was horrendously windy. You just wouldn't have fished any other method, would you? You'd have had to fish a bomb. So you've got to know the feeding. You've got to, know how to manage your swim. I'm going to go through a few dinner time treats because you're eating your whatever it was. It sounded terrible. Bob Murray's got beans on toast. Classic. Jason Jones. I think he's from Leicester or Northampton. He's got cheese and onion cob, which for everyone else in the country.
What is that then? Cheese and onion what sandwich?
That's a bap, bread cake, bread roll. But if you're from Leicester or I think Northampton, it's a cob. And I think it's named a cob all over the place. Let us know what it's named where you are. Roast lamb sandwich. David Bailey's got a roast lamb sandwich.
All right, David, don't rub it in.
Yeah, probably with a little nice China cup of Earl Grey or something.
Yeah,
like
got some mint sauce with that, have you?
I think his butler brought that one for him.
Yeah.
Peter Charles. Right, question for us. Liam Rob, when dealing with little skimmers coming off the bottom, what specific strategies or tactics do you recommend to pin them back down? Watching in Windsor with the wife and a cup of tea. So, Peter, we would love to know, are you fishing pole? Are you fishing feeder? Are you fishing waggler? We'd love to know what tactic you're fishing. But I think if you're fishing pole, I would start feeding little balls, like little tiny balls of ground bait with a little bit of worm in, or micros, something like that in it. But the ground bait needs to be like a blob. Like if imagine you're fishing paste in the summer, that's the consistency it needs to be. It needs to be a little blobby bit of putty that literally sinks to the bottom with hardly anything coming off it, and then it starts to just break down softly on the bottom, and you're gonna pin the fish to the bottom. You probably drag 4 or 5 fish down to the bottom that follow that little ball down, and then you'll be able to catch them on a little tiny bit of worm or an expander hook bait. If I was feedering, I think we'd try and do the same, wouldn't we? But in a feeder, so same sort of ground bait.
Without a doubt, for me, Rob, when skimmers are a bit flighty up in the water, the most important thing is not to give them anything there to keep them there. So what you don't want to be doing is having like a dry ground bait, anything active, anything floating in that upper layer. You don't want your ball breaking up before it gets to the bottom. You don't really want bits of bait coming off it. You want the bait to go down. And that's why that consistency Rob's talking about is so good, because it kind of leaves like a haze rather than actual particles. So what does go down is the solids, and then you might be left with a bit of smell, but generally speaking, the skimmers want to come down. So I always find regular feeding very important, but if you're going to feed regularly, it's got to be small amounts, thumbnail amounts,
Yeah,
not looking at putting lots
literally
in.
a tiny little ball, like thumbnail sort of size ball of grape, grape size little ball, little bit of maybe worm mush in there, maybe a few micros if you're on that sort of venue, in your pot, plop it down, and hopefully then every fish is facing down looking at that little ball of ground bait. You can catch them a lot easier.
I think it's what makes pellets so good for skimmers, because when you've got soft pellets, you feed them, nothing is left in the water column, is it?
No, nothing.
You feed them, they all drop to the bottom. They're in one piece on the bottom. You feed regularly because you're pellet fishing. You don't feed like a pot every 20 minutes. You feed like every 2 or 3 minutes. So you got this constant stream of like little hard balls coming down to the bottom, which is why I think pellets are so good for keeping skimmers nailed on the bottom.
I think actually we've seen in the underwater stuff though, Lee, they want to dip down, pick up the bait, and then they want to get up here again, don't they, as quick as possible. So dealing with that, you've probably done a lot more of this than me, because I never sort of got it to work. When you talk about rigs, do you double bulk for that sort of situation?
The trouble is, there's 2 trains of thought for me. One is the double bulk. That's great, I think, when skimmers are a bit more head downy and there's lots of them, Rob. So, like, you're getting indications, liners. There's like 7, 8 skimmers in your peg, and they're dipping down, up. Then a double bulk's great because you've got it on the bottom. You can then see that positive lift. When you're a lot of the time, there's not those sort of quantities of skimmers in your pegs. There's like a handful. So, for me, I like a rig with a slower fall. That's when like longer hook lengths can be good, more strung out shot, because it's almost like the fish watches the bait and uses that bait as like something to drag it down to the bottom. So you're actually using your hook bait to bring the fish you want to catch down to the bottom. You think about when we're feeder fishing, the number of times you catch a skimmer after like 30 seconds or like 4 minutes. There's no like 90-second skimmers, is there? It's like you either get one that follows it down and you catch it within the first 30 seconds, or you're sitting and waiting 3.5, 4 minutes.
So because further down, I've just looked and he is fishing long pole. So when it comes to feeding, would you be feeding with a little pole mounted pot, or would you big pot? Even though it's a little ball, I love big potting at small amounts of bait, because I feel that I ship out big pot it in. By the time I've shipped back, baited my rig, done all that faffing around, everything's settled for me to go out and catch the fish.
Mm.
You think it's better though with skimmers to pole mounted pot, get the bait in quick, empty your rig in quick, straight after it? Which you think is better?
Well, for me, I think that it depends on what you're expecting to catch. So if I was looking to catch 30, 40 pound of skimmers, the likelihood is I need a pot on my pole because I'm feeding, catching one, feeding, catching one. But I have to say that doesn't always happen. And I have to agree with you, Rob. I love a little tiny chop up in my big pot, whiz it out, plop it in. I remember we used to fish Barston years ago. The great hook bait was like 10 bloodworms. And do you know what I think made it even better was you go out, feed your ball. Because I used to try and be as efficient as possible. So I'd be like hooking all my bloodworms on, feed them a ball, then shipping out my thing. And actually, what you needed to do was feed your ball, come back, put your 10 bloodworms on,
Your time, yeah.
dead steady, look at your bait. That's absolutely brilliant. Ship it out, have a look around, put your rig in, hold your breath, get everything absolutely amazing. Bing, got it. Because the fish was ready for that bait. And that was almost like the most efficient process. So, but you know, that's when you're looking for 20 skimmers, 25 skimmers, that sort of thing, you know. So, you know, that's what, for me, that's what is, you know, the things he needs to be thinking about, really. I would also say in the next month, I'm going to say end of February, pellets will be working. That's when I'll be thinking pellets. And that's pole mounted pots because you feed your pellets and literally let your pellets settled on the bottom and then lower your rig down as the last pellet coming down. And that's the one that they'll take. It's brilliant.
It's instant, isn't it, pellets? Magic Man fan. To be fair, this is the Angling Time. So anyone that didn't tune in earlier, we're talking about the most influential person you're fishing. Could be your dad, your next door neighbour, could be someone on tele, could be someone on social media. We'd love to know the most influential person in your fishing. Could be anybody at any level. Because the Angling Times ran a bit of a top 50 and
content creation, that was good.
Yeah, some people have had a bit of a moan, but it's created, as a Magic Man fan has said, the Angling Times, everyone's talking about it, so great PR. And he's right. So obviously naming your top 50 most proactive social media guys is probably a great PR stunt, isn't it? Because they're all going to talk about it and push the Angling Times a little bit further, which Angling Times is a great publication. It doesn't need pushing, but all the help it can get is great. Stephen Piner, hi guys. Lee, whenever I see you, you're always eating. Stephen, that's why he's not getting any slimmer. Chris Hodgson.
You're joking, aren't you?
Ask Lee how he expertly avoided the floating ice sheet and sent it my way on low dinner.
Oh, this is a great.
Hallcroft last week.
This is a brilliant story, Rob. This is a brilliant story.
Ham and mustard sarnie, he calls it. A ham and mustard sarnie.
Sarnie. I'll go with sarnie. This is brilliant. So I was next to Chris last Sunday when basically what had happened was the country had been -2, -3. It was 1.5 inches thick with ice on a lot of places, which is mega thick, really. And then we had like a mild day. So it started to break up. So, of course, everybody's cut the holes. It was windy and mild. And the pegs on the other bank, their sort of holes kept getting bigger and bigger across the lake as the wind was lapping them. And these big sheets of ice started going. Now, Frankie cut my peg out for me, Rob. That's service, isn't it? Frankie cut the peg out. He said, like, he wanted to show his guns off. He was like, "Look how good I am at throwing my icebreaker." I'd go for it, mate. You know, I drove him there, and we draw next
point to prove.
Yeah, we draw next peg. So he cut me out a beautiful hole, and then he cut himself out a beautiful hole, and basically what happened? The ice moved. Frankie couldn't fish for the first hour and a half because his peg was frozen. And then about an hour and a half in, it all started to defrost. And this massive sheet of ice, right, like 5 pegs wide, came across the lake. And then my float was there, right? This is my float. And the sheet of ice, it came. And I thought, no, it's going to be right on my float. And it just skimmed my float like this, like right on the edge of it. And then just drifted to the left. And all I could see was Chris with his pole pot frantically trying to tap like 1/2 inch thick ice by this point, which I got to say, Chris, you made some great tunes. And Pete Miles shouted across the section. He said, "At this moment in time," he said, "I'm pretty confident you're the only person who's fishing in your section because everybody
Everyone's
else
covered in ice.
has got sheets of ice." But some people say you make your own luck, Rob. I don't know if that's true or not, but
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
who
What did
knows?
you catch?
I had 13 pound 14 ounces. I was second in my 10 peg section. So
Sounds mega.
or
Fishing through the ice,
bigger,
catching
bigger
13
section.
pound.
No, it's brilliant. Oh, the fishing was brilliant. The fishing was absolutely brilliant. I did well. Beat Frankie. That's all that mattered, didn't it?
That's all that
Nothing else mattered.
matters.
When you next peg to someone you know, that is all that matters. That's all that matters.
Very good. Magic Man fan. And he's going back to the Angling Times thing.
Yeah.
As much as he loves Matt Hayes, because Matt Hayes was having a bit of an argument with it all. And his programs back in the day, they're not that influential right now, which is what the article was about. That's, I think, what the Angling Times was arguing. Magic Man fan.
What was Matt Hayes? Was Matt Hayes commenting on it? Was he?
Matt Hayes was the big instigator. To be fair, he got quite a bit of traction, you see, on Facebook, which fueled his fire as well, because Matt was obviously saying, "Well, look how influential I am," because all these people are commenting.
Yeah.
And he was more in support of Mick Brown.
Yeah, which, and I think a lot of people commented on Mick Brown, and I think Mick. I mean, I've never met Mick. He seems like a lovely bloke and a great.
Mick, when I was at Shimano, Mick was there. What a cracking guy! What a
he
really,
seems
really
like a
nice guy.
Yeah. But Angling Times have done it. They've tried to go, well, who's had an influence this year, haven't they? And obviously, well, I suppose when you look back at it, I think you said Danny Fairbrass was number one. Corda launched a big underwater in 2023, didn't they? I think it was this like early 2023. I'm sure it was.
Yeah,
like that.
You can't argue with what Danny.
No, so like and so effectively, what they've done is they've looked back at the year and they've gone, "This is it." And I
mean, to get a nice spread of match, carp, horse. They've tried to spread it out a little bit.
They're not going to get it right every time, are they?
No, you're always going to upset a few people, but I would say I don't think Mick is particularly bothered about a list. I don't think Matt is particularly bothered about a list, but they've obviously used it to get a bit of traction and a bit of and good on them. Good on them. I was to say, have them two had an influence on my fishing? I'd say yeah, but not necessarily in the last 12 months. Yeah. And for some people, they would have influenced a lot of people, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Fair, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's hard. It's a tricky one. Martin Ellis, who influenced you? We're talking about. Firstly, it was my dad who got me into fishing. Then John Wilson, amazing, classic example. John Wilson. I don't think he's influenced anyone in the last 12 years, or many in the last 12 months. But in the last 20 years, he's influenced everybody. And then recently, us guys.
Wow, that's a steam company. Thank you very much.
Had a big influence on my style of fishing.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you very much, Martin.
Good.
Stephen Piner. As a kid, I looked up to my dad. I think a lot of people's dad. Your dad took you, didn't they? And my dad took me.
Yeah, he did take me. Yeah.
He, as a kid, he looked up to his dad, who taught him how to fish. Now it's the likes of you guys, and social media. And now I pass on what I've learned onto my dad. Brilliant. That's fantastic.
Brilliant.
Well, maybe not your dad. My dad could do with some. I try and pass on.
But he could do some influences, couldn't he?
He just doesn't listen. Just doesn't listen. He's horrendous.
Chris, what you're telling me is your dad and your kids, neither of them listen to you.
Neither of them.
So either they're both right or you're right. I mean,
none of them listen. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Chris Hodgson, I have to say, having only took up fishing again after COVID, I've learned the most from subscription services like yourselves and the odd group coaching day with yourselves, Jamie and Dean and Polly. So Jamie Harrison and Dean Barlow, and then also Mark Pollard.
Yeah.
So Chris has gone down the fast track. He started fishing again after COVID, and he's saying, I want to get good quick. One of the ways to do that is obviously you've got to put your hand in your pocket. You've got to fish matches, which is outside of your comfort zone. So you've got to learn, and you'll learn quick on those sort of events. And then, I say, odd coaching day, subscription services. There's loads of things where I like to think that with what we do, well, I know what we do. If we feel we have to offer value because people are paying for a service, we try and offer value by giving
Yeah.
it all away
So,
rather than
time on the bank and the highest level info are the two biggest things, and that's, you know, we've had some people who have gone on to win big titles come on our coaching days, Rob. So, you know, I think that's great, and I always love a day out when it's me and you anyway, because I think to myself, well, it's, you know, I'm learning from Rob and vice versa. So, you know,
you can't. If you're in good company, you'll learn fast. Put it that way.
100%, yeah.
Right, Chris Parker, he's doing his level 2 coaching at the weekend. Can't wait to set up a community fishing project, working with local schools. Thanks for all the fishing vids. Brilliant. We need more of that, Chris. Hopefully a few more people fancy doing that as well. That's fantastic. Ian George, he's looking for a light feeder rod for roach and skimmers for this time of year. My Daiwa SLR tip, I think, is too heavy. It is too heavy. I use them for distance at Child Reservoir. What would you recommend for my local water? So it's distance. I'd like to know what distance. What do you think he could use?
I think that for me, I was talking to somebody about this the other day actually, because they were saying a similar thing. Like, take for example, a Preston distance rod, a Distance Master, who's got 3.5mm tip. They're nice tips, really nice tips, but it's all about achieving the cast. Is it the perfect tip for hitting a 2-ounce skimmer bite? No, it's not, because you're fishing at 70 meters. So I think that the rods you need to be looking for have got thinner like tips just to begin with. I always think like 2.5mm. And this is something that obviously me and Rob are really big on. We know the difference in types of tips. Some, like a carbon tip, often quite fast taper, all in the top. Good when it's towing. Good when you're fishing for like carp and carasio and fish that are going to almost bolt onto the rod on the bite. But then a sort of softer tip. We do some, Preston do some on the Ascensions. All the tip goes. So if you're fishing at distance, you might need like what is a heavier ounceage of tip, but a tip where all the tip goes rather than just the top, because then that means that your bite is exaggerated. So, you know, maybe you want something a little bit more like that, but it's something you need to give us a distance or something like that, and what you're doing, and I'm sure we can come up with something.
I'll tell you what I'm gonna say, Ian, because I'm pretty sure you remember on the YouTube memberships section, there'll be several videos that shows both our rigs when we use our little feeder links and braid direct and those sort of rigs for hitting roach and skimmer bites. There'll be a video that we shot talking about rigs when we went to Sally Walsh's Dam after the Feeder Masters final. So how the Feeder Masters final was won. There'll be a rig at Underbank Reservoir.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
There's a rig that will detail the rig there. Sally Walsh's Dam. There'll be a rig there when I was fishing short feeder. Rudyard Lake, how the Super League final was won. There'll be a rig. There'll be the rig there. It's all the same rig.
Distance at Staunton Harold.
Distance at Staunton Harold. It would be all the same rig, and it'll tell you about braid direct fishing. So it'll show you how we set everything up for braid direct. So braid direct, when you're fishing at distance for those sort of fish, is really important. And as Lee says, casting the distance accurately, you've got to use the right rod for casting the distance accurately. But make your life easier by using braid direct, getting your rig right, and you'll have loads less problems. You'll hit most of your bites. The fish will almost be on before you pick up because you're using braid direct. Honestly, it'll make a massive difference. You remember already, so go and trawl through those videos and have a look.
Yeah.
The boss. This is on the list. No Des ship in the list is crazy.
Yeah, I thought that. I mean, now that you've mentioned it, like if Des wasn't on there, that's stupid, because Des is influential because he does loads of great videos on the Preston Innovations YouTube channel, which get great views. So, you know, maybe Des should have been included. But I suppose there's not space for everybody, is there?
Not space for everybody.
Good talking point. Hang on, wait. Right. A timer has just come up on the screen. It says 30 minutes. We're 30 minutes into this video. and you haven't talked about your weekend yet. I mean, why would you do that? Surely we need to be on our weekend, don't we?
Okay then. Right. So, Bait Tech Feeder Masters Winter Pairs.
Oh yeah.
Sunday, yesterday. My partner is Adam Wakeling. Adam has been doing really well in this league.
Good partner.
A good partner. He's been doing really well. I'm going to say he's been on the right areas of the right lakes. He's fished 3 matches. He's done brilliantly though. He's caught the fish when he's been on them. Me, however, not so good. I would say I've been in the wrong areas of the wrong lakes. But it's pairs, so we're having a great. We're just about there. And going into this match, we were lying, I think, 12th.
Yeah, just out of the top 10, weren't you?
Now, we were going to this match hoping to draw one of a very few pegs.
I mean, there was even some conversation about it, weren't there, during the week?
Adam got his peg that he wanted on Mo.
Yeah.
One of maybe 4
2
or 5
pegs.
pegs. Yeah,
No,
well, something like that. And then, obviously, I've got my peg. Peg 37 on Bridgepool. If I was going in the bag, I would have wanted anywhere from, I'm going to say, 17 round to probably where you were, I'd say. And this gives you a clue because Lee was on my left on peg 40.
40. I mean, look, 40's, it's nothing compared to 37, but
well, obviously not. So the good thing about my peg is it can throw up some big skimmers.
Holds the record. Holds the record, Rob.
It holds the record in the silverfish matches. It holds the record. So this is a weight league, and a cumulative weight is added up throughout the league. My peg could hold some big skimmers, and Lee to my left, your peg isn't so well known for big skimmers, is it? It's
no. It's a different peg to yours. It's one of those where you think you're confident you're going to have a decent day, but if the bream are in the bowl, they're going to be there. But if they're not in the bowl, then you might nick it. You might nick a few, and there's always a few bites there. But it's a funny peg there. I've seen it be good and bad and all sorts.
Yeah. Obviously, Lee talked about it. Last week was -2 overnight and in the daytime every day. This week we've had some temperatures double figures. It's been really good. Yeah. So we all went to the lake, getting all excited. We've got an edge battle on though, haven't we? Because you're to my left, I'm to your right.
Yeah.
We sort of at the start think, well, I'm on the better peg. I'm going to catch some bream and potentially break the record. And everyone's talking about how many keep nets I'm going to need. And it's going to be amazing because of this mild weather. But matches aren't fished and won at the draw.
This was a classic example of that, because I was there not 2 days before or 3 days before on the Thursday on the other side of the bowl, and there was so many bream there, and they'd been there the week before and the week before that. And do you know what, Rob? It was one of those where after an hour, it was like, they are not here. They are not. It's not the same as it was, wasn't it?
I'm going to say that I think they were there, but I don't think it was a bream day.
Right? Yeah.
By the same token, Steve went and practiced on the Friday. Was it?
He went on Friday. Yeah.
He went on Friday and sat on moat, and he caught bream after bream after bream after bream, and then he went and drew the peg next to where he practiced. I think he actually, because of the sunken pallet, I think he might have sat on the peg he practiced on in the match. So there's a problem with the pallet. And he's weighed like nothing.
No, the bream haven't been there.
So I'm just not too sure whether it was as mild. Because when you put your hand in the water, it is freezing, isn't it?
Do you know what I think it was? Do you know, this is just literally talking about it now. And this would be interesting for you guys at home, I think. Because basically what happened to me was, after like 15 minutes of fishing, bearing in mind you feed your lines and then you start fishing, so you're like 15, 20 minutes in, I caught a little roach, and then I got my bait ragged, and I got my bait ragged again, and I wound back. I put maggots on, 2 maggots on, loads of taps come back, damaged maggots, and I just thought to myself, and I caught a couple of little roach. I haven't seen that on there. I haven't seen that happen. Not usually until like maybe on your close line you get a few problems, but not certainly once you cast out. You can usually just cast out with your hook bait on and sit there and wait for fish. And I wonder, Rob, because there was odd little fish topping as well. I think fish are very reactive to pressure and things like that. It might just have been one of those days where literally every bream in the lake was swimming around 3 foot deep, and they didn't want to get involved in the feed. The little roach are swimming around 3 foot deep, but of course they're happy to go up and down, and maybe everything was a bit more active. And this is where the pegs help me, because I'm not on 37. I'm on the so-called not as good peg, which meant I decided to fish for roach. I thought I'll have 30 minutes fishing for roach. My actual thoughts was 30 minutes fishing a roach. That'll quiet it down out there, and then I'll go back out there. And it's not something I've ever done before. I've never, but within 2 casts, I didn't even set a rod up for it. I had to change one of my other rods. Within 2 casts, started catching roach, and they were bigger than I thought they were going to be. And that's it. I'm getting bites and I'm getting roach. So it's a really tough scenario, because you could have really got caught between a rock and a hard place, couldn't you? Because obviously I'm catching roach quite well, but you haven't started on it the same as me, because obviously I'm on the worst peg. You're thinking these bream are going to happen.
Yeah, I'm thinking I need to catch some bream here, because me and my partner I'm thinking long term. Me and my partner were not flying high in the league. We need a good day, and this is the chance to have a good day if the bream feed. So I'm still hoping that I can catch some skimmers. Now, what was really interesting is I came short when I seen you catching some fish, probably 40 minutes after you.
Yeah.
But with a view to catching some better fish, because I felt that the majority of the fish were just a little bit shorter anyway. So sacked off all my lines past 15 meters and started fishing underarm, similar distance to you, 5-6 meters, something like that.
Yeah.
And there were chunky fish, weren't there? There was an odd big perch in there. The roach were like 3 ounce, 4 ounces, odd little skimmer. But all the time I'm thinking, I can't throw this chance away, because potentially I could catch 40 pound on this peg. It could be that
That's
good.
Peg, yeah.
So what I was trying to get into a rhythm of is catching 3 or 4 fish short, and then going on my 15-meter line, which I'd fed for bream, hopefully to give me a chance. Hopefully as well, by not casting on it constantly onto my bream line, you know what it's like. You settle it down. You enable that sort of activity of you casting.
Stop those little fish being there. Yeah.
Yeah, those smaller fish drift away, and some bigger fish come and start to move in. And I had a great spell mid-match where I had like 5 fish in 5 chucks on that longer line. But also, what I was doing was I was catching a skimmer on that longer line, and instead of chucking straight on back onto the top of it, I was catching maybe 1 or 2 roach short, then going onto my long line, catching another skimmer. So it gave it time. It gave it like 5 minutes between each skimmer, which gave it just a little bit nice time to settle down. And it was a lovely little rhythm. I thought, if this carries on, I'm going to catch a really good weight. Then they just drifted away. They just drifted away. I'm wondering if I put enough bait in. But I'm
just not sure if they were in that aggressive feeding mood, though.
I wonder if they'd come shorter as well. I think maybe they come shorter, because late on, this is why I think those bigger fish were there. Late on, I've had a few liners like this, chuck out, and you get an odd liner, and they're decent fish. They are. I think they were just a bit shorter. Trouble is with worm and joker fishing, you sort of do make your bed, don't you? And you sort of go, that's where I'm going to catch them. I just wonder if they were not really feeding, but they drifted a bit closer, because all along our bank, the anglers that had fished short and had a good day, no one had less than double figures, I don't think, did they?
No, it was brilliant fishing. Yeah, absolutely.
So everyone from me and down. So I had 17, ended up with 17 pound. Probably half the amount of small fish that Lee had, but obviously some skimmers and bream mixed in. Lee had I don't think you had any skimmers or bream, did you?
I just had little skimmers, but not the target skimmers. Do you know what I mean? I had little skimmers with me roach. You know.
So Leah's won the edge battle with £22 of smaller fish, and then it's sort of like gone £13, £16, £12, £12. It's been brilliant fishing all the way down that bank, hasn't it? So our bank has definitely been good.
I think I weighed 20. I think I weighed everybody in there yesterday, and I think from memory, 4 out of 20 less than £10. So it was a good lake to be on. We were actually first and second on the lake, but with completely contrasting nets. So, you know, it was good. And obviously, Adam had an amazing day on his peg on moat.
Yeah, Waco had £28, which is a brilliant weight in that winter league, isn't it?
Really, it's the second biggest weight I can remember, to be fair.
So I think after the first match, we were about last.
Yeah, I think you were literally about 25th.
Yeah, second match, we crept up a little bit. Third match was, second match was cancelled. Third match, we crept up a little bit. Fourth match, we crept up a bit more. And now we are 5th in the leaderboard.
Which is awesome.
From nowhere. So we won the day yesterday. We've got a great picture on Facebook of me with my mate Adam on Facebook. It was obviously great to win a round because we've not won a round, me and Adam, at all on that league.
Yeah, me and my partner Wilfried were second on the day. Will had £20. We had £42. So
because you're flew up now, haven't you?
Well, we are.
There's been some casualties at the top, wasn't there, yesterday?
Well, amazingly, yesterday, the first, second, and third weighed 19 or £20. Like they all had 19, £20. Obviously, we had 42, you had 45. So now we are 10 ounce off the lead for the battle for first. But even those pairs that are like 10, 11, £12 behind, and I think you're £20 behind us, but if you have a £45 day,
the last round can do that, can't it?
The last couple of rounds can easily do it, Rob. I think £45, if that happens, whoever catches that out of all of that will win it without a doubt.
We missed that first round where there was we missed that first round where
there was a few more fish to be caught first round.
We just didn't get onto that at all.
No, so there you go. That was it. That was the weekend, and an edge battle where there was a winner, but in both categories because you won the pairs. You know,
we managed. Obviously, I was second on the lake. You won the lake. I was second on the lake. We won the pairs, and you were second in the pairs.
Can't ask more than that, can you? What a great weekend!
Fantastic. Load of cash as well to take home, which is brilliant. Hi lads, hang on. Right, so Paul Dudley. Hi lads, not often I can join this. Using feeder links, do you use a boom or straight through with a little line stop? Right, Paul. All the rigs, and we've just been talking about, it's the detail of our rigs for every situation on the videos. So all you'll have to do is there'll be a little section in each video that talk about our feeder rigs. Our feeder rigs have evolved massively through obviously going abroad, fishing with top guys, seeing what other guys are doing, and then working together when we go out on the bank. So you'll see them, how to make the rig, how to put it together, the components that we use, all on those videos. Essentially, we use a little feeder link, and then we run it down to occasionally a little stop, but more likely a knot that sits literally on your line. There's fewer components on your line, the better, Paul. So have a look at those videos in the sections. They're all in that members section, and there'll be a section in each video. I think the best video to watch would be how Lee won Feeder Masters, because I talk about roach fishing, Lee talks about skimmer fishing. The rigs are very similar with a few little tweaks, but that will show you the rigs for sort of open end feeder fishing on natural venues. So much detail. It's hard to explain actually. Just telling you here, it's better for you to see it. Chris Weston can say that you guys have wanted me to get a lot better at fishing. Thank you, Chris. My late dad, bless him. I know Chris's dad, cracking bloke, got me into fishing. Perch first cast, think it was napped off. I'm going to say it probably was napped off, Chris, or it might have been Whetstone Gorse, the old farm pond lake near me. Perch first cast, nice. Ian George, thank you for answering my question. I will only be feed fishing mostly under 30 meters with a softer rod. So is that?
Yeah, you want to be looking at, like, if you're under 30 meters,
11-foot rod.
Yeah, I have a 10-8 Ascension, Rob. That's what I used yesterday. I can't think of anything better. I'm not even being funny. Rob will tell you I'm like this. It's 100. It's like they're like 100 quid, which is obviously a lot of money, but in rod terms, it's relatively cheap.
And those tips are nice as well, aren't they? The Ascension tips are nice.
The tips are perfect. Honestly, they're so good. So for me,
have a look at that rig though, Ian, because that'll help you massively. The rig will help you hugely.
Get yourself one of those rods. Get a membership and look at the rigs, and that'll be spot on, I reckon.
Ian's a membership. Ian's a member already. Stephen Potter, was that same feeder match, lads, that May Potter fished, who was on Bonsai?
No.
We shot the bomb video on Benny's.
Benny's, yeah.
That wasn't a match though. That is just obviously a session video showing you how to fish a bomb for F1s. The match we were fishing was at Hallcroft, so totally different complex. We'll have to go and fish a couple of those matches at Lindome though, because they are good matches, aren't they? Loads of fish.
Yeah, I like Lindome. It's great. Yeah.
And Paul will lift thumbs up. I think we are just about finished, Lee. I'm going to. What you got for pudding? Have you got a dessert?
No. I'm an athlete, Rob. I only eat pudding in the evening.
Okay. Well, I think I've had 3 chocolate bars already today.
Something like that, anyway.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, folks. We will see you next week.
See you next week. I'm back in, aren't we?
Chomping at the bit.